one of your previous lives was working for Congressman Tim Ryan. Do you miss politics? Especially in this climate? Or especially not in this climate?
In this climate, it's a little hard to miss politics because I think it's pretty ugly right now. But I do miss policy, and I think that it would be a lot of fun to find ways to still be engaged with developing new programs, trying to find the best way to fix problems, spend money, all of those types of things. About 2 years ago, I was invited by the Regional Chamber to take part in a larger planning process that the Ohio Chamber was initiating, where we essentially developed a strategic plan for the state of Ohio to consider for economic development. And I will confess to loving that process. I am a policy wonk, and while I may not like politics, I will always love policy.
Yeah, and so you stay very up on everything and you're still very involved, would you say, or just from a distance?
I would say it's more from a distance. The day-to-day here is enough to keep me pretty busy. When it's relevant to YBI, I do try to be as engaged as I can be. It is true that there's never enough hours in the day, and I tend to take more advantage of opportunities that come along than trying to drive those opportunities.
It's interesting to me because you're in a very high-tech world here at work, and then when you go home, though, you're a much more quiet, centered person. Is that fair to say?
That's quite fair to say. I live in a rural community on a farm outside of Salem. Not a huge farm, but it's a pretty quiet place. A couple horses, cats, and dogs, and we don't like to leave the farm any more often than we have to over the course of the weekend. It is just a truism that I seem to have two different lives. I have my work here, and then I go home and am filthy dirty and playing in the garden and cleaning stalls and just enjoying being outside. I truly love to be outside, and while I love my 9 to 5 here through the week and my work life, I also really love that other side of my life that is just at a different pace.
You are very much, and have been for a long time, into meditation and yoga. Do you think that needs to be a bigger part of maybe Americans' lives? I mean, what does it do for you, and what would you like people to know about it, maybe?
I think that both my physical activity, because I spend a lot of time running and working out and releasing a lot of the stress that I see through the course of the day, as well as my meditation and just trying to be more centered and mindful, developing a true spiritual practice. Those two things were really what allowed me to keep my sanity through what can be very, very stressful periods of time. I think overall I'm pretty centered. I don't go to great extremes in terms of up and down as things go good or bad. If things go awry, I can keep pretty even-keeled about it, and that wasn't true at one point. A lot of my ability to just really function at high levels for long periods of time has to do with the fact that I have so much emotional and spiritual support behind me because I do those practices. It just gives me a grounding that I think allows me to play at a different level.
Do you find that Americans don't put as much stock into that or importance into that as maybe other areas?
I don't know if it's an American thing or just a function of modern life. I can say that I can see a difference clearly in my friends who are more meditative, more spiritual than those who are not. It is a fact of life that we live in a high stress world, and while I would not say that meditation and athletics and exercise will solve all of the world's problems, it does solve a lot of problems at that individual level, and I would encourage anybody, especially in this atmosphere where we have so much uncertainty, to look for ways to relieve their stress and to find that strength within themselves to help get through the day.
We had talked about quality of life in terms of attracting new companies here, but there's also a lot of partnerships and collaborations here that are very attractive to some companies. Tell us more about that.
About 6 years ago, we started working with Team Neo, America Makes, Magnet, to develop the Northeast Ohio Additive Manufacturing Cluster. Again, we talked about the fact that America Makes works at the national level. We work more at the local level. We needed to start branching out to the regional level. So we did a study to understand really what's the region's capabilities and what are our needs if we're going to make Northeast Ohio and Youngstown in particular the epicenter for additive manufacturing. And that is our stated goal. When the world thinks about additive manufacturing, we want them to think about Northeast Ohio in the same way that you think about Silicon Valley and software. So we did a study and then we started working the results. And what we have really come to understand is that having these relationships with major corporations like Vallourec and Goodyear, Safran, Parker Hannifin, as well as smaller companies, M7, Hometown Patterns, and being able to bring them together through the cluster makes everybody better. It develops supply chains. It gets people thinking about new partnerships, new products, new opportunities. And then those resources are something that we can sell to the outside. So I had a conversation 3 weeks ago with a company from Great Britain that is doing additive manufacturing in the automotive industry. They are very interested in coming here, and we didn't really have to even sell them. As I was trying to convince them to come, he finally said, "You don't have to convince me to come. I've already seen the work that you're doing. We're going to come see what see what's happening and appreciate the opportunity. I am already sold. You don't have to try to sell me." That's the value of this cluster work and the strength of the partnerships that we have in creating the Northeast Ohio Additive Manufacturing Cluster. There is a lot of work happening, and that cluster just puts it in a place where we know how to access it and to create those connections to help make our companies better.
So putting on your thought leader's cap and looking towards the future, what direction do you see the YBI moving in, and where do you see Youngstown in the next 10 years?
If you look at history, in the 1950s, it was pretty clear that there were huge changes on the horizon for the auto and steel industry, that foreign markets were opening, new competitors were coming into place, that technology needed to be deployed. We are at the forefront of one of those waves again.
Revolutions?
Yes. Industry 4.0 is happening. Industry 4.0 is the next step in the automation of manufacturing. And while additive manufacturing is a component of that, it is only one component of many different technologies. Robotics is another component. Smart manufacturing as a whole is taking data, whether it's captured from the sensors that EPI makes, or from video taken off of an iPhone. It's taking data, looking at that data using artificial intelligence, really analyzing it and understanding how to either make products better or make the manufacturing process better. So for instance, if you have an automation system and you've got sensors deployed on it, it can capture that a machine has started to shimmy a little bit and that you need to do some preventative maintenance or the machine's going to go down. It is a different way of doing business, and if we don't start getting our companies thinking about manufacturing 4.0 and how they can integrate new technologies, new information into their systems, they're going to be left behind because their competitors, both within the United States and internationally, are going to be doing it. It's technology that's already being deployed, and we have to be at the forefront of that.
So could Youngstown be that center for that type of technology, as well as, and I'm going to expand this to the Voltage Valley, looking at electric vehicles? How do you think we could look in the next 10, 20 years?
Well, we're working with a number of different companies that have this capability. It's happening around the world right now, and I think that the real opportunity for us is to find ways to integrate the technologies that we're working with into our manufacturing base. And if we do that, if we're successful with that, it will make both of them better. So our existing companies will grow and continue to flourish, and the startups will have opportunities. But everybody needs to be thinking about how we're going to be manufacturing in the future, because it will look very different than we are today.
Thought Leaders is sponsored by Eastern Gateway Community College. With more than 35 programs, Eastern Gateway can help you with your career preparation and transfer plans.